All right, folks, welcome today to our special webinar presentation sponsored by Insurance WebEx. I'm Don Graves, your host, and I'm so glad that you're with me today as we talk about a very important subject and one I hear about day in and day out. How reverse mortgages can position advisors to make more money. That's 3M, make more money. Now, if you're an advisor, you're on the call, and maybe you got the wrong webinar, and you're saying, you know what, I don't want to learn about making more money. It's okay. You can drop off the call right now, and that's all right. I won't be offended. And I teach these several times a week, different subjects. So I just want to make sure we've got the right people on the call today. So how to grow your revenue, retention, and referrals with reverse mortgages. That's what we're going to talk about. We'll spend about 60 minutes or less, and we'll take some questions at the end. So over on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a place for questions, and you may want to jot them down when they come up. So how reverse mortgages can position advisors to make more money, how to grow your revenue, retention, referrals with reverse mortgages. Most people know what this picture is on the screen. It's a computer mouse. I've got one in my right hand right now as I'm speaking. And most folks don't know when it was developed, 1964, 65, Douglas Engelbart out in California. And he was so excited for the first time, you could move this device and it would move something on the screen. Before that, they would use either the key cards or key strokes. But now you can move something, click, and a window would open. In 1964, he took it to Hewlett-Packard, and they said, what's that do? That's not going to do anything. Get out of here. He took it to IBM, and they couldn't see a vision. He had what was called the mother of all demos, where he invited in computer scientists from all over. No one saw it. Eventually, Xerox says, well, we'll take it. And at that time, Xerox took everything in their Palo Alto Research Center. And so from 1964 until 1974, when a young Steve Jobs negotiated to see what was in the Palo Alto Research Center in Xerox, and Steve Jobs said, what does this thing do? And they demonstrated it. And the New Yorker magazine says Steve Jobs jumped up and down, twirled around, hyperventilated, left the room, came back in and said, this is the future, right? You guys are using this, right? And they said, what do you see? You see something we don't see? And he jumps up and down, turns around, twirls around, and he says, you're using this, right? This is the future. And he leaves the room, and he calls his partner and says, I found something that will change the world. And in 1984, 1985, Steve Jobs released it with the first iteration of the Mac. And he went on to say later, he said, if Xerox had known what it had and taken advantage of its real opportunities, it would have been the biggest technology company in the world. You see, it's possible that when Douglas Engelbart started this, and no one did anything with it for 20 years, but now this technology sits on the right-hand side of my computer, on my cell phone, on my tablet, but no one saw it at first. So I'm not saying today that you're going to jump up and down, hyperventilate, spin around, and say, this is the future, right, and leave the room. You may not say that, but you may. And that's what we're going to talk about, how to leverage something that's been around in order that you can generate more referrals, more retention, and more revenue. Well, I'm Don Graves. I'm adjunct professor in the Retirement Income Program at the American College. I'm the president of the Heckham Institute for Housing Wealth Studies, and I've got coming up on 18 years as a home equity retirement specialist. That is, I've lived in this pool, I've swam in this water for a long time, and I'm here, if I can, to help you to impact more people. Over the years, I've talked to advisors, and I've heard these things from advisors when it comes to reverse mortgages. Oh, Don, they're too complicated or too expensive or they're not for my clients. One fella said to me, Don, I don't like them because they're equity strippers. I told him, Russ, I don't go to clubs like that. What's an equity stripper? He says, oh, it doesn't leave any money for the children. I said, well, just hold on with me for about 7 minutes and maybe something's changed. But the most common thought was the last resort. That was popularized by FINRA. That was their stated position, that reverse mortgages should only be used as a last resort. And a lot of folks still believe that, even though FINRA changed their position in October 2013. Speaking for the society and After I presented out in Arizona, I sent an email asking and letting advisors know there was additional information. And one fellow wrote me back. Here's what he wrote. He says, I'm an independent registered investment advisor. I manage the nest egg of really wealthy people. We've done extensive research on reverse mortgages, and we don't feel it's a prudent strategy for any of our clients. I was stunned by this, so much that I incorporated. I said, wow, for any of your clients, 400 families, that's a lot. So I named his firm Einstein Nostradamus Wealth Management. That wasn't their real name, but I figured their tagline could be really smart and know the future, because that's what you'd have to be to come up with a statement like that. 3 questions I like to ask advisors. First question is, what percentage of your clients who are at or in retirement do you think would have a need for a reverse mortgage? I don't want you to type that in. I just want you to think about that. Now, most people say 5, 10, 15, maybe 20% at most. All right, second question. What percent of those clients would say they're 100% certain they'll have a great retirement? Well, Don, that's a smaller number. That's a smaller number. I said, well, what percentage? Maybe 5 or 10% or 100% certain. What about 80% or 90%? Well, it's not a big number. Here's the third and final question. If there were a strategy that could help your clients increase cash flow, reduce risks, preserve assets, and ensure liquidity throughout retirement, what percentage of your clients would want you to tell them about it? Did you just say 100%? I think I heard some of you, my special Spidey powers, say, well, Don, 100% of my clients would want to know of a proven resource that could help them do that, increase cash flow, reduce risk, preserve assets, and ensure liquidity. And I said, absolutely, 100% would want that. Well, see, there's the gap. The gap is 10, 15, 20% of your clients, or you think your clients have a need for a reverse mortgage, but 100% want to know what a reverse mortgage can do. And those are the 4 things right there, you see. In the world we're living in with the DOL ruling and its various iterations, there's some fallout that's going to happen because of that. Dr. C.W. Copeland at the college has a great quote. He says, advisors have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients. In no uncertain terms, this means they must do what is in the best interest of their clients. If an advisor fails to become informed about the benefit of HECMs, or reverse mortgages, they're failing at their fiduciary duty. By no means is a reverse mortgage right for every client. But here's the phrase I love. But every advisor worth their salt should have a cursory knowledge of the subject matter in order to, at a minimum, factor it out of their client's equation. You see, that's very powerful, and I think that's very important. That's why we're here today. So the big idea is, are reverse mortgages a product of last resort, or are they a viable tool to be integrated in retirement income plans? Are they for the mass affluent retiree, or just those who are house rich and cash poor? And our subject, in what ways can a reverse mortgage help you, the advisor, impact more clients, differentiate your practice, and create more revenue generating opportunities? That's the question of the hour. Well, I've been doing this nearly 2 decades, 18 years now, and there are 3 no-nos that I say to advisors, and I want to put this up front in case you want to hang up. No annuities, no equities, no exceptions. Those are the 3 no-nos. Don, what can I use the proceeds of a reverse mortgage to do? Well, you can't do any annuities from the proceeds, you can't do any equities, and there are no exceptions. Now, one fellow really challenged me on this. He called up and says, Don, my client can do whatever they want to do with the reverse mortgage dollars they receive. There's no prohibition. I said, you're right. Now, what color do you like your ankle bracelet in that the feds are going to issue you? Do you like black or blue or yellow? I said, they chafe after about 2 weeks, but pick your color. And see, the point is, no, there's no prohibition that the client can't do something. The prohibition is what happens to the advisor when you take the direct proceeds, when you take the direct, listen to me, the direct proceeds. So no annuities, no equities, no exceptions. And then folks say, well, Don, why am I on this call? How do we get paid? I thought this was about us making money. I had a fella who emailed me, and he said, Don, I assume that this product has a commission in it. If so, what kind of license is needed, and what does the agent make if it's properly licensed? That was a question. Another email, the person wrote, now for the $64,000 question, Don, how do I get paid on this? It's tacky to ask, but I'm sure all of us want to know how that part works. Well, sure. I don't think it's unfair. We're living in a time of compression and finding clients and challenges, so that's not an unreasonable question. So let's unpack that. See, the advisor has really 4 challenges today. The first challenge is the challenge of attrition, losing clients who pick up their money if you're doing managed wealth, or if you're doing something, attrition. Those are the commercials. I like the Charles Schwab commercials because they cast a lot of doubt and they make people call their advisor and say, hey, what do you charge for fees, or what is this, or what is that? Or Ken Fisher, who hates annuities. Have you had your client says, well, I've got an annuity. Why does Ken Fisher hate that? The problem with attrition. The second is erosion. If you're doing managed wealth and you're managing $400,000 or $4 million, if your clients are prematurely eroding those assets, that impacts you. The third problem a challenge advisor has is attraction. Don, how do I get in front of new clients that fit my profile and have resources, money to move, or products to buy? And then when I get in front of them, how do I get them to do that? That's a problem of attraction. And the final is the problem of distinction or differentiation. How do you set your practice apart from the sea of sameness that you live in? What makes you any different than another advisor? I'm going to show you those things because there are 4 ways in which advisors are compensated, and only 4 ways that I've discovered. Let me know if you agree or not. You're compensated by the money you manage, the products you sell, the clients you keep, and the people they tell. You see, those are the 4 ways. You're doing management and you get paid a fee for the management, the products you sell, annuities, long-term care, life insurance, things of that nature. But here are the 2 intangibles that a lot of advisors overlook to their detriment. The clients you keep, that's the problem with attrition. You've got to keep clients, and those people, they have to tell others. So the money you manage, there's certain risk if you're doing managed wealth, market risk, withdrawal risk, sequence risk, attrition and erosion. And again, that Schwab commercial, what I love, where the father says to the son, what are you doing with your money? And he says, oh, when did you come see my guy? And he asks the question, well, do you get your money back, your fees back, if they don't profit? And the father laughs, and he says, why are you laughing? He says, oh, that's not the way the world works. And the son says, well, the world is changing. That's a very powerful question. And 2 things are revealed there. Number 1 is the challenge that advisors have with retaining folk and all the things that assail your practice if you're doing managed wealth. But 2, it says something about the boomers and the millennials, their children, that the majority of millennials will not use the advisors of their parents. That's a fact. Well, you make money by the products you sell. Premium dollars, you need to get them new, renewed, transferred. The clients you keep, loyalty, and then the people they tell. That referrals make a difference. Referrals make a difference. If your clients are not referring you and have not become passionate advocates, you're steadily going out of business. You're steadily going, there's just not enough money to acquire new clients. Here's a question for you. Have you ever thought about the cost of acquiring one new client? How much that cost you? I had a fellow the other day said, Don, I think it costs us about X thousand dollars to acquire a new client. Now, he was using the price of a seminar, the mailing, the room, the dinner, the people who responded, and if he got 5 people, the money they rolled over. And if you divide that by what you spend, he said, I think it's about $1,000 to $2,000 per client. Have you thought about the cost of acquiring a new client? Secondly, have you thought about the cost of losing a client? What happens with that? Keep that in mind. We'll come back to that. So how do advisors make money with reverse mortgages? I'm going to talk about the earning potential, the compliance and reputation risk, and is it illegal? Is it illegal? Well, the first way is you don't want to earn money. You just want to add this as a service, a value add to your clients. Number 2, you said, Don, I want to become licensed, NMLS licensed mortgage loan originator. 3, Don, I want you to pay me a referral fee. I give you a client, and you send me $100 or $500. And the 4th way is to become Housing Wealth certified, where you're integrating these principles into your practice. So what if you just want to offer it as a business, a value add? No, there's no earning potential there. What about if you get NMLS license? Now, I want to be licensed to do this. There's very high earning potential. Let's say $50,000, $100,000 a year more. What about a referral fee? Well, there's some potential there. You can make some money. Someone sends you $500 or $250. Or what about a certified Housing Wealth advisor? Well, there's a medium earning potential there. Now let's talk about the compliance and reputation risk with this. I'm just giving it as a value add, Don, where there's no or very low compliance and reputation risk. What about being NMLS licensed? There's a medium compliance or reputation risk. And the reputation risk there is that the CFPB, Congress, the SEC, FINRA, your state regulators are looking for an advisor to cross-sell. That is, sell Mrs. Jones a reverse mortgage and turn around and then sell her annuity or some other product, even if it didn't come from the same pot. They're looking to make a case. This happened in Washington and most recently in Boston. What about a referral fee? What's the compliance and reputation risk on that? Very high compliance risk with that. And what about becoming Housing Wealth certified? Well, that's low to none risk. And finally, is it illegal? Well, no. If I'm just adding as a value add, no, it's not illegal. What about NM being licensed? No, that's not illegal. What about accepting a referral fee? Yes, that's very illegal. Yes. A fellow said to me, well, if it's not in writing, it's not illegal. I had to hang up. I said, okay, I'm sure my phone is being bugged by the NSA and you're going to prison. You're not taking me down with you. And what about being Housing Wealth certified? That is learning how to implement this in your practice in a way that can generate substantial revenue. Is that illegal? No, that's not illegal at all. And so here are the 4 ways that advisors can make money. Adding it as a value add to your business. I think that's a very good way. And it ties in with the 4th one, becoming Housing Wealth certified. We'll do some of that today. Now, I gravitate towards the last one because I want you to not get in trouble with compliance. I don't want you to wear the ankle bracelet. Referral fees, that's absolutely off the grid, but people do it all the time, right? They find ways to do things that are illegal and unethical. And becoming NMLS licensed. I have several friends and several insurance agents and registered investment advisors who says, Don, I want to become licensed. I said, sure, I can help you find the right person to do that. But I want to tell you, you're going to have a target on your back. That's very dangerous. The risk is fairly substantial for you to do something nutty. I don't advocate for it. And so I can help you, and I do help people, but I don't advocate. Because I think you can make substantially more money doing what I'm going to show you today. But I can help you at the end of the day. So we're talking about a tale of 2 advisors. One who knew about Housing Wealth and how to use it, the other who didn't, and the additional revenue generating opportunities created by this. Today we're going to see this couple here. This is a Money Guide Pro. Their advisor knew how to use Housing Wealth, and they took their probability of success from 58 to 96%. We're going to see an advisor who's had their client in the market, and it went up and down. That's 2015 to 16. But that green line is something they showed them that gave significant opportunity to the client and tremendous revenue-generating opportunities to the advisor. I'm going to show you how a client moved to their last and best house and added $252,000 back to their retirement savings in a way that was legal, ethical, moral, and compliant. It is the only, let me repeat, it is the only legal way to use reverse mortgages to add back to retirement savings, and I'll show you how to do that. And then at the end, I'll show you some clients that had some managed wealth, and they had the same savings, same withdrawal strategy, same allocation from the same investment on the same day. One ran out of money in 23 years. The other one had $1.1 million left after 30 years, and the only difference was they had a different advisor who had a different understanding of how to use Housing Wealth in retirement. Well, you know this. Retirement is like Everest. You climb, the climbing side is accumulation, and you're trying to reach the top, and then you get there, and it's a whole different ball game. Coming down the mountain is distribution, and that's where a lot of the risks lie in retirement. I'm not going to cover the 18 major risks as outlined by the American College where I teach, but you can find them at 18risks.com. There's a 9-page pamphlet that's very good for your clients to have that covers these risks in the subsequent strategies that may be appropriate. The The four major concerns of clients are the four L's, as coined by Dr. Wade Pfau and myself. Longevity concern, will I have enough money to meet my basic living needs? Lifestyle, will I have enough money to maintain my standard of living? Legacy, will I leave a lasting impact? That doesn't mean you left money for your children. It may mean you didn't have to borrow money or move into their spare bedroom. And liquidity, will I have access to tax advantage money when I need it? Now, what I'm sharing today is part of a larger course, so we're not going to cover all of this today. So there'll be some slides that you see, and you'll say, oh, Don didn't cover that, because that's in the larger course that I'll talk about later. But driving a lot of this conversation is this group right here, the baby boomers. You know them, the people on the screen. I asked a group in the crowd, I said, well, who's that? Somebody yell it out. Someone yelled out, the Rolling Stones. And I yelled back, no, sir. That's the Strolling Bones, because they've gotten really old over the years. Baby boomers between 1946 and 1964 were born. 10,000 today are now turning 70 and a half. That means their qualified dollars need to start coming out. They've got to spend what they've saved, or at least take it out. They're going to live longer. They've not saved enough. They're highly indebted. But here's the great news. 87% of baby boomers will own a home going into retirement. If you don't know as an advisor what to do with that housing wealth, you're going to be behind the curve. The U.S. Census Bureau says the typical retiree retiring today has about $92,000 in savings, but $192,000 in home equity. So our typical retirement planning picture looks at a client's income, their investments and insurances. I'm including annuities, and a business to sell, and a second home in that. And you've got to figure out to do a systematic withdrawal, a bucket approach, a flooring strategy, or there are all types of hybrids, right? But you have those three buckets to work with. And the question is this planning model sufficient? Well, when we add the fourth column there, you see it just popped up there, housing wealth, we're going to create some efficiencies. We're going to create some dynamics that allows you to do more knowing the strategy than if you did not know it. So the question is how the reverse mortgages work together with retirement savings to enhance outcomes and client satisfaction. Well, the first question is, what is a reverse mortgage? The New York Times had an article last week that was absolutely fake news. I don't like using that term because it's overused. And so I use it judiciously. As a matter of fact, I've never used it at all until the blog post today on what they said about reverse mortgages was absolutely criminal. And so Jamie Hopkins, my business partner, wrote a rebuttal to that. You can find that on my website, AskDonGraves.com, AskDonGraves.com. You can see that as well as two videos. But what is a reverse mortgage? 4 words, folks, 4 words. And if you can get these 4 words deep down in your spirit, next time you go to a picnic and you mention reverse mortgages, you'll be less likely for someone to try to stab you. What is a reverse mortgage? Here it is, 4 words. It's just a mortgage. It's just a mortgage. That's all it is. It's just a mortgage. The home equity conversion mortgage, that's its legal name, is a federally insured loan developed by Congress in 1988 to provide a mechanism for those 62 years over to use their wealth without having to make a monthly loan payment. You don't give up ownership or come off title to the home. The amount of money you get is based off of these 3 building blocks: the age of the youngest borrower, the value of the property, and the interest rate associated with the program. The older you are, the more money you get. A reverse mortgage must be a first mortgage, or any existing mortgages must be paid off. And the typical 65-year-old today can get about 50% of their home's value up to the lending limit of $636,150. So if you've got a $400,000 home, you can get about $200. If you've got an $800,000 home, you'll get about 50% of $636,150, or about $317, you see. Now, the spending options are very important. You can have the money in a lump sum, divided over 2 years. You can have it in a line of credit, very important. A monthly 10-year payment, that is, we'll just send you a check every month for as long as you have the loan. A monthly term payment. You say, Don, I just want this for 4 years or 6 years or 8 years, or a combination thereof. And finally, the loan gets repaid when the last surviving borrower permanently departs the home, moves, or diseases. At that time, whatever money was advanced to them, think of a credit card. Think of a credit card. Whatever money was advanced to them, plus any interest that gets accrued, gets repaid and 100% of all remaining equity is passed on to the heirs or the estate. That's the reverse mortgage. So let's talk about how you can use this to impact more clients, acquire new clients, and generate more revenue. You've got to understand that the landscape has shifted, that retirees, this is CNBC, Jamie Hopkins says, retirees, and I think we can substitute advisors, simply cannot afford to continue to ignore home equity as an income source and still meet their clients' retirement goals. Do you believe that? Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's a fact. Nearly 100% of people 55 or better have already seen, read, heard, or inquired about reverse mortgages. That was a study earlier in 2017 by the National Council on Aging. Now, this is very important for you to understand. If you say, Don, 100% of people who are at or near retirement have seen, read, heard, or even inquired about reverse mortgages, what has been the issue? This is what the National Council of Aging found out. They said, well, why have you been reluctant to do one? And here's what they said. Because we don't know anyone we can trust. We don't trust Fonzie, Fred Thompson, Robert Wagner, James Garner, Magnum PI. We don't know who we can trust. Do you hear that, folks? That 100% of the people you're trying to reach have seen or heard or read about reverse mortgages and are favorably disposed, but they don't know who to turn to. You can't get a greater competitive advantage than to say the folk that you're sitting in front of already know, and when you learn how to use it today, it's going to be powerful. So let's talk about some of the reverse mortgage tools. Swiss Army knife. My daddy, we're from Falmouth, Kentucky, my people, and Daddy didn't leave me much. He left me 5 guns, because that's what you do in Kentucky, and a Swiss Army knife, and I have his Army jacket. And I was always amazed with that Swiss Army knife, which stays in my drawer, of all the things that you could pack into one thing. Very versatile. And the reverse mortgage is the Swiss Army knife of retirement income planning. I coined that phrase, and I'm quoted in Forbes magazine as saying that. But let's look at the line of credit. Most of you know what a line of credit is. You have one in your back pocket. It's called a credit card. Or you've got one on your home. The reverse mortgage line of credit is this green line on the screen. When you get a reverse mortgage, one of the ways you can take it is in the line of credit. But Don, I don't need the money right now. I just want a line of credit. That's great. We can do that. But here's what most people don't know. The reverse mortgage line of credit has a built-in contractually guaranteed growth factor that cannot be canceled, frozen, or reduced regardless of the home's value now or in the future. Wait a minute. Stop the tape. Rewind that if you're listening. So a $200,000 home produces around a $100,000 line of credit. Notice what happens to that line of credit over the next 30 to 31 years. It grows to nearly $609,000 if unused. We'll look at a $400,000 home and a $600,000 home. So notice, your client has a $600,000 home. They're 65 years of age. They take out a line of credit. And that line of credit is unused, and it grows to $1.9 million in 31 years. And someone said, Don, is this new? I'd never heard of this before. And I said, no. It's been around since February 1988. We're about to celebrate 3 decades of this functioning. As a matter of fact, this very chart itself is a product of the software which HUD mandates the lenders to use. So this is not even conjured up. This comes from FHA themselves. It's the most powerful tool that exists because the numbers you see, the growth in the line of credit is contractually guaranteed. The minimum is growing today at around 6%, and I think the contractual minimum today is 4.75%, which means it's never going to grow less than that. What does that mean? Stop, pause for a moment. What does that mean for your client? You see, what is the benefit of having a standby reserve of accessible dollars? I'm going to take a breath because I want that to sink in. I want you to think you're sitting in front of a client. They're 65, 68, 72 years of age, and you're able to share something that looks like this to them. What would it mean for your client to have access to something like this? Growing, accessible, cannot be frozen, canceled, or reduced. Most of you here sell insurance on the call. And your clients, depending on where you live, are paying homeowners insurance of $600 a year, $1,200, $2,000. And they've been paying that out of pocket every year. And I like to ask advisors and clients, have you ever had a fire? Most people said, no, I've never had a fire. I said, how much have you paid in insurance over the years? They said, Don, we've paid probably $30,000. Well, we should at least set your kitchen on fire or something so you can get your money's worth out of that. Well, no, that's not how insurance works. Most people never totaled their car. Most insurance is never used. But here's an insurance that I think will be used. Ben Bernanke, former Fed chair, said, I tried to refinance my mortgage and I was unsuccessful. That was funny to me. But here's an insurance that your clients can use. It's called equity insurance. Do you see it on the screen? Equity insurance means access to the appreciating equity in your home, regardless of the home's value now or in the future, regardless of your income or credit. Equity insurance. That's what the reverse mortgage line of credit is to your clients. Well, Don, if my clients are paying $1,000 a year out of pocket every year for homeowners insurance, how much is equity insurance? Listen, equity insurance costs about $350 out of pocket to establish. That's it. Wait a minute. You're telling me my clients are paying, is that every year they pay the $350? No, they pay it one time. They establish a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 line of credit guaranteed to grow for them with a minimally contractually guaranteed growth rate, and it only costs them $350 out of pocket. Folks, I think that's a pretty outstanding insurance. We go into that more in our course, but we can't cover that today. And integrating the reverse mortgage line of credit, the RELOC, and a diversified plan, there's the market right there. And a lot of folks doing managed wealth, and they're telling their clients, I can get you 8 to 10%. Well, fantastic. Inflation will soon be 3. Cash gets no money. Your CD is getting less than 1%. Social Security, 2%, but they usually take back 1. And maybe if you're doing some annuities or bond laddering, maybe that's 3 or 4% or so. But there's a gap. You see the gap? There's a gap between the 4% and the 8%. And that's where the reverse mortgage line of credit can be inserted into a diversified plan. That's saying to your clients, I don't want to take away anything from you, but for $350, I would like to have you insert a reverse mortgage line of credit because it's going to have some tremendous upside capacity. And that's how it gets inserted there. It can mitigate the dips. Oh, wow. I wish I could talk about this slide right here. And 7 ways a reverse mortgage can be integrated into the distribution phase of retirement. With this, Dr. Wade Fowle and some folk at Texas Tech and 3 other studies looked at $1 million portfolio with a 50-50 allocation and a $500,000 home and a 25% marginal tax rate. This is chapter 7 of Wade's book, Dr. Wade Fowle's book. And in essence, what it says is this. The quick summary is the red splat says, here's a person that didn't use reverse mortgages at all, and we ran 10,000 simulations. Their probability of success was less than 40%. The yellow splat says, here's a person that waited to use reverse mortgages as a last resort. They didn't integrate it at all until they had run out of money. Probability of success, 69%. The other 5 lines you see are all using the reverse mortgage integrated into a plan at some point in retirement, and the black line at the very top is establishing a reverse mortgage line of credit at the onset of retirement and then using it later in the future. That gave your clients the highest probability of success. The Journal of Financial Planning published this, the Journal of Retirement, and Dr. Wade Fowle wrote a book about that. So let's look at some strategies, and then we'll pause and take some questions. Again, this is part of a larger course, but I want you to see something. Don, show me how to make the money. Remember that Cuba Gooding Jr.? Show me the money. Made the agent say, show me the money. Well, somewhere between 50 and 68% of retirees are going to come into retirement having a monthly mortgage payment. So I want to talk about Pierce and Linda here. And here's the metrics we submitted to Money Guide Pro several years ago to run some scenarios. First year income, $72,000. They had $750 in the market. They had $350,000 in cash, CDs, money market, dollars under the mattress. They had a home that was $550,000. And the question we were asking is, what if we turned that home into a monthly payment from the reverse mortgage of $1,200 a month? Or let's say they had an existing mortgage on the home of $170,000 that they were paying $1,200 a month for the next 240 months or 2 years. That's the scenario. Now we asked MoneyGuide Pro, based on this, if nothing changed, what's their probability of success? 58% was the probability of success. I asked them, was that good? No, that's not good. And so we said, what if they use the HECM 4326R? That's a replacement HECM. What difference would that make? And so here's what it looks like. That is, we're going to take their traditional loan and we're going to exchange it. We're going to swap it out and replace it with a reverse mortgage. When we do that, we pay off their mortgage. You see the purple? We paid it off. We gave them some money at closing, and then we left them with a $119,000 line of credit. Now get your hands around this, or get your head around it. So that means the advantage was we created $1,200 that could stay in their pocket. And we established a $119,000 RELOC, reverse mortgage line of credit, growing at 6%. So we went back to MoneyGuide Pro and we said, now, if they don't have to take out, because we've eliminated their mortgage payment, now they don't have to take out $1,200 a month because they don't need to draw from that. Does that make a difference? And they reran the numbers, and here's what they discovered. Yes, if they do that, if we can reduce their draw by $1,200, the probability of success goes from 58% to 96%. Let's stop right there. How many of some of you aged between age 50 and 60, maybe 65 on the call, I want you to think about the friends you have, the friends I have. I'm 51. And I thought about what percentage of my friends that I know who own a home have a mortgage or home equity loan or some lien against the property, some debt servicing. For me, it was nearly 100% of the people I knew. Think about you. When you say, well, what percentage of baby boomers are going to have a mortgage in retirement? 50 to 68%. I think it's more, but that's what they're telling us. If you're able to help that client eliminate a monthly mortgage payment, what does that do? Well, if you're doing managed wealth, it reduces the draw on their portfolio. Here's an example that says this client had an $800 a month mortgage payment, and we eliminated that by having them do a reverse mortgage. They eliminated their need to make a payment, and it extended their portfolio for another 10 years, right? Here's the question. What else could your client accomplish with $1,200 a month? Now we're getting into the part where you're going to make a significant impact. A lot of folk, friends of mine, they said, Don, I do annuities, long-term care, life insurance, and it's kind of one and done. My clients don't have any more products to buy. I can't do any more planning. I said, nonsense. Do they have a home? Do they have all the protection, savings, growth that they need? Nonsense. You just are not looking at the home the correct way. What else could your client accomplish if they didn't have a monthly mortgage payment? Isn't that a great question, folks? Look at your client and say to them, Bob, Peggy, how would retirement be different if you didn't have a monthly mortgage payment? See if they start crying. See, here's the planning point. If you're doing annuities and life insurance, what's the number one fear of annuity purchases? What's the number one hindrance, right? I've shared the platform with Tom Hegna several times and Curtis Cloak. Some of you know Curtis's name. We've done 8 or 9 things together. We were just on Wall Street earlier, a few months ago. And you all know this if you're selling annuity products, that the number one concern is loss of liquidity, loss of control. They're hugging, Curtis Cloak calls them asset huggers. I have to watch how I say that. And loss of liquidity, loss of control, right? With Don, why do you have $350,000 in cash? That's more than 6 months to 2 years of reserve. Why do you have that, you see? Now, let's go back to Pierce & Linden. I want you to understand what you have just done and the planning opportunities that you have just opened up. So with Pierce & Linden, we got rid of their monthly mortgage payment, right? So we've created $1,200, and they can take out less, but they've got this money in cash. And their number one concern is, you know what? We may need that for a rainy day. We don't want to move that. Loss of control or liquidity. Now, remember, you established a $119,000 line of credit for them. You see that on the right-hand side. So that means you have given them, look at the liquidity. This is 5, 10, 15, I think 15, 20 years. Look at the liquidity you've given them. Now, the 2 types of liquidity. There's technical liquidity. That means the person says, I've got $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, but it's tied up in stocks or bonds, or you need that money to generate the income you need to live. That's technical liquidity. And then there's true liquidity. When you do a reverse mortgage line of credit, you create true liquidity. That is, this money is accessible to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This money is accessible to them. And by creating this liquidity, you're able to say to your client, if we were able to give you the liquidity you wanted, $100, $200, $300, $400,000, would you be open to us reimagining the money that you have sitting in cash that can do so much more for you? What's the answer going to be 100% of the time? Yes, Bob. Yes, Bill. We want to have liquidity, but if you can do something with this money, we understand. You see the competitive advantage you've just gained, folks? By creating and establishing a reverse mortgage line of credit, you now are able to create a liquidity bridge, a behavioral aspect that gives your client freedom to do that. How many times a year do you have to be in a competitive situation to do that? $1,200 a month. Let me tell you about my friend Willard. Willard was an advisor, and he had a client that had a $1,300 a month mortgage payment. And I shared this with him several years ago before he passed away. And his clients were in good health, but they didn't have any estate planning, no life insurance. They didn't have long-term care of any form. And he freed up a $1,300 a month mortgage payment. And with that, they purchased life insurance, $800 second to die policy. I don't sell life insurance, so I don't know if that was good or not. But they also at that time were able to purchase some John Hancock long-term care insurance. They had an old annuity, and they wanted one of the hybrid policies. So they were able to roll over their old annuity. Now, why were they keeping the old annuity? That's right, for liquidity purposes, right? So they were able to roll over the old annuity and purchase one of these hybrid life or annuity products that gave them, again, additional life coverage, but some additional overage for the long-term care. And they also made an annuity purchase because they had money in CDs and money markets, and they were holding on to that as well, just like Pierce and Linda. So Willard came out of that transaction having done what was in the best interest of the client, a transfer of assets through life insurance, long-term care to protect the $1 million they had, a hybrid old annuity that was no longer functioning and it wasn't done well, and an annuity purchase. And they never used the proceeds of a reverse mortgage to do any of that. Now, I don't sell any of these products, but I have some idea what an $800 a month premium on life insurance would pay you in commission. I have some idea what a $514 long-term care policy would pay you. I have some idea what a $200,000 hybrid rollover would do, and I have some idea what a $100,000 annuity purchase does. You see, going head-to-head, Willard had this knowledge, and that knowledge translated into money. And folks, you know the old saying, complete it with me, knowledge is, no, it's not power, it's revenue. The knowledge is revenue. When you know how to use housing wealth and you're sitting in front of a client and perhaps you're in a head-to-head situation, maybe the client went to 2 dinner seminars, yours and a competitor's. Maybe the client signed up for 2 consultations, yours and a competitor. And there you are. You both lay out your managed wealth plan and your strategy. You both lay out your annuities and your this and your that. You have the same carriers, same products. But you came out with the deal where your competitor didn't. Why did you come out with all of this? You came out because you simply knew how to create a liquidity bridge or cash flow control by using a reverse mortgage, because you knew how to establish a line of credit. You knew how to eliminate a monthly mortgage payment that converted or translated into impact and into dollars. Well, one of the advisors on the call sent me this a few months ago, and I said, I don't sell insurance. I don't know what that is. And he said, Don, let me share how powerful this is. I said, I don't even know what it is. And he says, here's the income that can be generated, the premium, and if we eliminate, and this couple had a $1,700 a month mortgage payment. He says, Don, if we eliminate that, that can be turned into premium, and that's going to produce a death benefit, and this hybrid. He was all excited that he was able to do that, folks. Well, I wish I could cover this, but oh man, I don't have time. I want to prepare for your questions and get through a few things. And that was good. I'm telling you, if I had gotten to that slide, you would have hung up the phone and ran outside with your hair on fire. But let me tell you about the number one way that advisors can help their clients really have a substantial retirement and at the same time create investable dollars. Now, if you go to my website, AskDonGraves.com, or Heckham Webinars, write that down, please. Heckham Webinars, plural, HeckhamWebinars.com. All the upcoming webinars I have. Tomorrow and the week after next, I have the Housing Wealth Foundation seminar. It's free to you. It's free to you. And so next Wednesday, I'm going to cover what I'm going to show you in depth and detail. But I'm going to give you an overview of right sizing. Now, here's my client. Meet Mark and Linda here. That may have been the same couple earlier. I just changed their names. They're 65 years of age. They've got $400,000 in savings, $32,000 first-year draw. That's not sustainable. They've got a $535,000 home, and they've got a $1,400 mortgage payment. Linda's concern is that she doesn't run out of money in retirement. Mark's concern is he wanted to play more golf, and he can't because things are a little tighter than they imagined. And here's the question. You should hit print screen right now. If I could give you one free question, this would be it. So I asked them, and I told their advisors, I asked them this question. I said, would it be okay if we increased your cash flow? Stop right there. What's your client going to say? They're going to say yes. Would it be okay if we increase your cash flow, decrease your expenses, and added more money back into your retirement savings? They're going to say yes. Some of them are going to look at you like the 80s TV show and say, what you talking about, Willis? Yes, of course it'd be okay. See, 45% of retirees are open to moving. They just don't know how. So here's what we did with them. I said to this client, great, if we sell your home, your $535,000 home, we pay off your mortgage, you've got $400,000 left over. If we did nothing right there, we've created cash flow of $1,400. We've created money for you. And they said, you can move to a home that's $300,000. And they said, great, we'll pay cash. And we'll have $100,000 left over. I said, you're going to put a lot of money in proceeds in your house. What happens if we have another 2008 or 9? They said, oh, that's not good. I said, so you have a new home, no mortgage, $100,000 left over, but you've got all your money locked up in proceeds. They said, you're right, Don. They said, well, what if we do a traditional purchase? And we go out and go to Bank of America and we get financed for $154,000. So we didn't put all of our proceeds in. I said, that's great. You only have to add $146,000. You've got $254,000 left over. Fantastic. The benefit, you've got a new home. You've got money left over. What's the downside? The downside is now you've got a monthly mortgage payment again. And that's what we didn't want. So let me show you the Heckham for purchase. The Heckham for purchase, same thing we saw. They sold their house. They paid off the mortgage, so they created cash flow. They're going to buy a new home. Instead of using Bank of America, they're going to use the Heckham because it's just a mortgage. They get financed and approved for the same amount, $154,000, and now they've got to add $146,000. That means they still have $250,000 left over. The benefits, they have a new home, they have no monthly mortgage payments, and they've got $254,000 left over. Now, your client comes to your office with a duffel bag with $254,000 in it, and they say to you, Bill, we'd like to do something with this. Can you help us? What's the answer to that question? Well, the answer is if they sold their house and had $400,000 left over and they moved to an apartment and they showed up with that money, would you know what to do with it? You would say yes. What if they had $400,000 left over and financed the loan with Bank of America and had $254,000 left over? Would you know what to do with it? Yes. Well, they've got $254,000 left over, and you say to them, what is that? You say, well, it's proceeds from the sale of our house. And friends, that is the only legal, ethical, moral, and compliant way that you can take reverse mortgage dollars and reimagine them. Now, 2 weeks or a week from tomorrow, I'm going to unpack this. There are 4 other strategies that you need to know, but I can't cover it today. So did we increase Mark and Linda's cash flow? Absolutely. We eliminated their mortgage. Did we reduce their expenses? Absolutely. Smaller house, lower footprint, less deferred maintenance. And did we add money back into their savings? Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Harold Levinsky came to the Wharton School and he talked about what happens when you use this reverse mortgage line of credit. And instead of having your clients have a 2-year reserve bucket in cash, you move it to 6 months, and that money goes back into market. Let me close with this. If you're doing managed wealth, here's a client that had $500,000, and in the early part, their returns were negative. That's the pink. I don't know why it's pink, but it came out pink. And so after 23 years, because of early negatives, they have significant loss, and they run out of money in year 23. They call you up and say, we're out of money, and you say, well, now do the reverse mortgage as the last resort. See, that's the last resort position. And they did it, and they got 7 more years. The alternative strategy says the year following a negative return, there's 7 of them. See them to the right? Don't take any money from your savings after a down year. Allow your portfolio to recover your managed wealth. This will radically preserve savings. But the question is, well, how do we eat during those years where we didn't take money? Well, you know the answer to that. If they established a reverse mortgage line of credit early in retirement, they can use the reverse mortgage to eat in those years. If you're doing managed wealth, you want to pay attention. And if they do that, they not only don't run out of money 23 years later, they have about $1.1 million left. Why? Because we didn't monetize or liquidate assets during the down years and lock in the loss. The outcome, the client on the left-hand side had a net negative of $541,000. That is, they ran out of money, then they took out a reverse mortgage, and they had to pay that back. The client on the right, your client, that used to set up the reverse mortgage first strategy, had a net positive of $391. The difference is $922,000. Can you imagine? The estate is in a much better position. The client had a more enjoyable retirement, and the advisor earned 3 times the fees. 3 times the fees, folks. Well, I can't talk about deferring Social Security because we don't have time. But the competitive advantage that you have, creating a liquidity cushion, cash flow creation, it was so much I couldn't even finish this slide. But 6 ways advisors can make money. You can become an NMLS licensed loan originator. I can help you to do that. I don't make any money from that. I just point you to some friends of mine that could have you licensed. It's not my preferred choice because I think it's very risky and very dangerous. And if you're very serious about your financial business, it puts a target on your back that I think is unnecessary. But nevertheless, I point people that way. You can use the HECM exchange to eliminate an existing monthly mortgage payment, repurpose those dollars to create more long-term care life insurance. And by the way, how many people, you think about this, how many of your clients are in danger of lapsing a life insurance policy? That's a big number, folks. By giving them a line of credit or setting up a monthly payment, you eliminate the fear of lapsing on a policy that they're going to need, life insurance, long-term care, the ability to have to annuitize before time so it doesn't build the vesting, the surrender charges from having to take out a lump sum of money. By establishing a line of credit, you really help your clients in a lot of ways. Use the HECM for purchase strategy. Use the HECM line of credit. Use it as a buffer strategy. And then become a Housing Wealth Certified. That's a course we'll be releasing in July, after Labor Day, where we're going to spend 4 hours and unpack this and not only tell you facts, but we're going to give you the questions, strategies, tools of implementation that you can really use this. But for now, I'm going to take some questions. The questions are over here. If you have some questions, I want you to ask them so I can spend some time answering your questions. So go ahead and ask them now. I'm going to pull this block out, but let me tell you about some ways to implement it. I want to suggest that every client meeting talk about housing wealth as a part of a comprehensive plan. In our course, we tell you how to do that. Another way to implement is to give out collateral education materials. I created, here's one called 25 Ways to Use a Reverse Mortgage. That was a wonderful compilation put together by advisors. It's not a sales piece. There's no lender on here. It's just a checkbox. This came from Investment News. Mary Beth Franklin, 12 savvy and surprising ways to use a reverse mortgage. She had 9, I added 3. Forbes magazine had 5 ways reverse mortgages can help your client's retirement. And that came from a student of mine who summarized one of my lectures, and then this one right here, which is making a case for reverse mortgages and retirement income planning. That's Dr. Robert C. Merton, professor at MIT, Nobel Prize winner in economics, who says reverse mortgages could possibly be a solution to the global retirement income crisis. I want to suggest that you go, oh, I put myself in there. There I am on page number 2. I forgot that. I'm embarrassed, but I put it in there. And then keep a retirement income partner on speed dial. Keep them on your team and consider hosting an education workshop or webinar. Now, those things, if you, on this call, if you're listening to the recording, you'll get my emails where I talk about how this is being successful. So let me take a few questions. And then we'll land the plane. So let me find your questions, and I appreciate you being here. Here we go. Ooh, there are a lot of questions. All right, I'll take as many as I can. Here we go. Is this dial-in only? I don't have a phone line connected. Sandy, I hope you can use your computer. Okay. Good. Those are earlier questions. We covered some of that. I hope there's audio because there are a lot of people still on. So maybe the earlier folk got the audio. Don't know. You would have to put in your audio PIN number. Cornell, there's a replay of that. All right. Kevin asked the question. So if a relock is used, do they still maintain ownership of the home? Yes. Remember, Kevin, a reverse mortgage line of credit is no different from a bank line of credit, no different from a mortgage. They're the owners of the home. When they die, their heirs or their estate will move and sell the property, and they'll pay off what's owed, and they'll pocket the difference. So it's no different there. Proceeds are tax-free from the reverse mortgage line of credit. What is NMLS? Thank you, Ernest. NMLS is the National Mortgage Licensing Service. That is, if you want to actually sell and be compensated for reverse mortgages, you have to be a licensed loan originator. And that's what NMLS stands, National Mortgaging Licensing Service, or you become part of a federally chartered bank and you come under their license. I can help you with that if that was something you desired to be, and you would be a licensed loan originator. Great. Don, are you in the position to be compensated by becoming Housing Wealth Certified? Nope. You can only be compensated if you're a licensed loan originator, Lynn. The Housing Wealth Certification program is that you can talk to your clients with clarity and know how to win in every situation with the questions, concepts, theories, and examples that will lead you to be able to have more managed wealth, keep more money under management, sell more life insurance, annuities, long-term care, or hybrids and such. And also connecting with that's a differentiator. Great question, Lee. Is there a cost for the course? Yes, there'll be a cost. Lee, stay tuned for that. We'll again releasing that after Labor Day. John, one concern for clients is what if I move? How do I transfer a line of credit to a new home? John, the line of credit, the reverse mortgage becomes due and payable when the last surviving borrower permanently departs the house, moves or deceases. So if your client moves, they're going to sell the house, they're going to pay off the reverse mortgage, and the line of credit is gone. And now, if their line of credit is larger than the value of the house, they can take out the money from the line of credit, and there's no penalty for that. But otherwise, it's going to be closed out just like a bank line of credit. Is there a minimum income requirement, Ken asked. Ken, there's a requirement for residual income. This says that your client must have enough money to maintain their housing obligation, property taxes, homeowners insurance. For a single person, that's about $500. For a married couple, depending on your state, anywhere between $800 and $1,000. Most clients don't have an issue with the residual requirement. If there are any issues, it's because clients haven't paid their taxes and insurance in a timely manner over the last 3 years. Davin, if we're interested in learning more and finding out how to offer this to our clients, how do we proceed further? Davin, email me, don@dongraves.com. One of the things advisors do, and I do this all over the country, an advisor says, Don, can a client come into the office and you do a webinar for my client? Sure. Just get them around the table, put it on the screen or television, and we'll do a client-focused webinar. I'll be in Texas, Baton Rouge, South Carolina. I was just in Iowa. I do live and in person. Those are very powerful because we can do multi-day and you don't have to buy a big steak dinner to have a tremendous impact. Why? because 100% of your boomer and retired clients have already seen, read, heard, or inquired about reverse mortgages. They don't know who to trust. So says the National Council on Aging. When an advisor says, we've got a professor from the American College talking about how reverse mortgages work alongside with your other investments to create client satisfaction and new outcomes, come and hear about it. You get a room full of people. Absolutely. So Sandy can't use computer audio. Sandy, I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to send the rebroadcast. I hope it shows up. If not, I do this again, and you get my email. Unique. That's a great name, Unique. I missed part about where the monthly payments are due and using the monies available. Nope. If you take money from a reverse mortgage line of credit, there's no monthly mortgage payments required. And so you're able to, and you can make a payment, you can put the money back. It's bi-directional. You can take it out, put it back. If you've got RMDs and you say, I need a place to put them, and I can pay down my reverse mortgage if I took some money out, you can use that. Unique, great question. And anyone on the call, feel free to email me with further questions, Don Grace. Anthony, but the line of credit can be fortified if homeowner goes, but the line of credit can be forfeit if no home. Okay, Anthony, let me slow this down. I think you're saying, can the line of credit be forfeited, or is it forfeited if the owner goes into a nursing home? Oh, that's a great question, Anthony. No. The line of credit is not forfeited. And let me answer it because I think I understand what you're saying. If I don't answer it, email me down at Don Grace. Your client sets up a line of credit on their home and they don't use it. And now they've got a need to go in a nursing home, maybe one spouse or a second spouse, and they don't have long-term care insurance. Now, most states will say, listen, if there's a community spouse, the home is not eligible. Consult your elder law attorney for that. But other states, if it's a single person you go in, the house becomes accessible, which means they can use that money. They cannot touch the line of credit, which means your client, consult your attorney on this, but your client can use that money for home care, which means your client has a $400,000 home and a $200,000 line of credit. They have to go in a nursing home. Nursing home cannot touch that. So that client can use that money to do all sorts of things. They can even do gifting to their children under certain parameters and within certain time frames. Consult your estate planning attorney in your state to do that. But that really is the number one way to encumber the home, to protect, Anthony, from, but you don't forfeit that in a nursing home. Marty says, is it illegal to use a reverse mortgage to purchase life insurance? You mentioned annuities, not life insurance. Marty, here's what I say. Great question. I would say to any advisor, do not use the proceeds of a reverse mortgage to purchase any product. Now, let me clarify that. Most people don't know that reverse mortgages and long-term care insurance were hand in hand at one point, which was if you were going to purchase a qualified long-term care insurance plan, Congress said the closing costs of your reverse mortgages could be waived. Most people don't know that reverse mortgages could be used to purchase a single premium immediate annuity when I got into the business nearly 2 decades ago, and that quote from John Hancock was on the AARP website. Now that was abused, some things were done amiss, and so what has happened is we can't use the proceeds. Now you can, if you missed the early part of the call, you heard me say, if your client wants to purchase something, they can do it. It's not your client that's going to be in trouble, but you may have to wear an ankle bracelet and register in the newspaper as an offender. A person from New York Life said, Don, I got in trouble because I attended your webinar, and on the compliance part, I said, they're buying life insurance, and they said, where's the money come from? I said, the reverse mortgage, and it was declined. I said, I never told you that. I told you can't do that. Your client is not buying life insurance from the proceeds of a reverse mortgage, are they? They're buying it from their income. There's a difference. The reverse mortgage may be used to replenish their income, but there's not a direct pipeline from the reverse mortgage right to your insurance carrier. There's a pipeline from their income, their bank account over here. You see the difference, Marty? The difference is, no, you're not using a reverse mortgage to purchase anything. You may use a reverse mortgage to replenish the premium dollars that funded it, but you're not using it directly. Subtle, but very, very important. Greg, hey Greg, how are you doing? Are closing costs similar to a regular mortgage? Closing costs on a reverse mortgage may be slightly more, Greg, because FHA has mortgage insurance premium built into that, and so otherwise the differences are slight. But here's what I'd say. You can't go to the bank, set up a $200,000 line of credit at your bank, come back 20 years later, and it's $690,000. What a reverse mortgage does, and by allowing growth in the line of credit and by allowing no repayment required, is substantially better for your clients. MJ, hey MJ, good to hear you. Michael Jordan's on the line with us. The Bobcats aren't doing too well. MJ says, I thought a HECM was more costly than $350. No, MJ. What I said is the out-of-pocket cost for a reverse mortgages are $350, the out-of-pocket cost. And I use that to talk about buying life insurance. So the client spends how much dollars buying life insurance, and I said they may spend $1,000 a year out of pocket. I said the reverse mortgage out of pocket will be about $350. Now, the finance closing costs on a reverse mortgage could be or more or less, but we're talking about the cash flow or the finance impact to your client. So $350 up to $500 in some places. That's absolutely true. Thanks, MJ. Good to hear from you. Doug, what happens if the credit line exceeds the value of the home at death? You celebrate, Doug. You hit the HECM jackpot. The client called me and said, Don, I put my house up for sale. The best offer I've gotten in 6 months is $385, but my line of credit is $485. Can I take the money out of my line of credit? I said, yes. He says, I know the house is not going to sell for enough to replenish that. I said, well, there's mortgage insurance that was built in to the policy. That's one of the risks associated with it. And so that's exactly what he did. All right, Alan says, if a couple uses, what time is it? Oh, my gosh. Hey, folks, here, see, I'm just yakking on because this is good. And let me answer one or two more questions. Email me, don@dongraves.com. I promise to answer the questions. If a couple uses line of credit to pay for long-term care on a hybrid with a rider, is that okay? You can't use the proceeds of a reverse mortgage to do any of that, Alan. You can use your income to do that, and then you can use a reverse mortgage to replenish your income. And it makes it so that when they're less likely to apply for Medicaid, yep. Alan, email me, don@dongraves. Can't cover that now. Donald says, another Don, what if interest rates go up 1% a year for 10 years? How does that change your numbers on the house? Donald, it doesn't change the numbers on the house. What it does, if interest rates go up 1% for the next 10 years, your line of credit is going to be absolutely ginormous because the line of credit is tied into the current interest rates. So your client's going to have a humongous line of credit. If they've taken money out, their balance to pay back may be larger. That's a great question. Folks, wow, this is so good, but I've got to stop. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Clearly, I think this was good stuff. I'd like for you to email me, don@dongraves.com, with these questions, and I promise to reply to your email. You're going to get you're now on my 60-second email list, so you'll get some of these things that you see on the screen. If you want these handouts or anything I've talked about, when you get my email, you send them to me. I don't send out anything to people automatically. See, the hungry bird gets the worm. I send it out to folks that said, I'm hungry. And I say, great, if you're hungry, I'll feed you and I'll help you. But this has been fantastic. The bottom line is, if you're making an extra $1,000 or $5,000 a month, because you've learned how to position housing wealth in a conversation that your clients can now feel comfortable moving money or letting go of something because they've got a liquidity bridge, or if you can help people get rid of a mortgage payment and they can reuse that income for life insurance, and that creates a commission of $5,000, $8,000, or if you can help your folk prevent premature erosion, and over time, that's 3 times the fees earned in your managed wealth practice. Does housing wealth then make sense to you? I think it does. Well, anyway, look for my email. I'm going to end this recording and send it to you. And email me any questions you have, don@dongraves. And next week, we're going to cover this, or tomorrow, and in the next day. And you can find all that, again, at HECM Webinars. You can see everything I have coming up on HECMWebinars.com. All right, folks, I'm done. Thanks so much. Bye now.